Right then, let's have a little bit of a waffle. Second video of the day, and it's an interesting one. We didn't properly get into it this morning, so let me know what you think in the comment section below. Jack Harrison, we need to discuss everything around him. We need to discuss what the likelihood is. We didn't really get into it that much this morning on the Room Mill. Go check it out for all the added bits today, but we are going to speak a little bit about it. The chat was popping off. You guys were interested in my thoughts, and you were conversing with each other on what needs to happen and what should happen. Some actually in the chat saying, Con, it's Premier League experience. We've heard the podcast, obviously, on the Leeds United site. Don't go to bed just yet. Obviously, the Radio Leeds podcast, I believe it is. Obviously, Popey and the Kaiser Chiefs Curly One guy, and I apologize, I don't know the other guy's name, talking about it and saying, it's Premier League experience. Harrison coming back. We touched on it this morning a little bit, but this isn't about disliking Jack Harrison as a person. I think we've got to make that abundantly clear. I've never disliked Jack as a person. I think actually Jack seems like a really lovely lad. The frustration is naturally purely football related. I don't think he's delivering at the required level, and 38 appearances with one goal is insane. Insane. We're speaking to Mike, Blue Boys Network, very, very big friend of the channel. And Mike has listed a hell of a lot of problems with Jack Harrison, almost added problems, actually. Toward the back end of the season at points, actually. It was the energy levels of Jack that weren't there, which is quite interesting when you're looking at that. I think there's a lot of irritation from certain fans that maybe sentimentality is still sort of seeping its way in. Although I think a lot of Leeds fans now are unanimously on the same page when it comes to Jack. There is a natural few, and football is subjective. Everybody's got an opinion. I understand that. But I think, even just the wage reality, 40 grand a week, 2 million quid a year for bottom tier output, really. And the question is, what can Leeds do? But the wages limit naturally the club's ability to strengthen elsewhere. Could Jack potentially be on the bench as well for Leeds United in a couple of games this season? And naturally, look, there's a legacy here, isn't there, when it comes to Jack, and it's symptomatic of the club under Victor Orta and Angus Kinnear giving out ridiculous contracts, ridiculous length contracts. Obviously, Bamford's symptomatic of that. Jack Harrison is as well. That's not Jack's fault. I think there's been a natural performance decline. We're all very, very aware of this. His best performing season was probably during the COVID season, 2020, 2021. That was over 5 years ago. And it makes me think a little bit of the Calvin Phillips. It's been a long day, people. The Calvin Phillips. I'd rather have Calvin Harris on the pitch. Calvin Phillips sentimentality as well when it comes to it. We did well at Leeds once. We'd take him on a cut deal. We'd take him back. And obviously, Calvin's not part of the group right now. But yeah, we'd take him back. And there's no performance related evidence that this will work again. And the body of evidence in the last 3 to 4 years with Jack, with Calvin, with Patrick has been bottom tier. It really has. It's been below par. And there's an argument really within that 3 or 4 month span that Patrick Bamford had in January onwards last year. He's actually been the better performer in terms of output with all of them in the retrospective positions. So the one goal contribution in 2,000 minutes is a staggering statistic to me, and you have got to judge it on a meritocracy. And I think that's the fairest form when you're attacking player. He's not a fullback. I mean, Junior Firpo's got more goals in this season. I believe Bogle's got more goals in this season. I think that's joint with Rodon, albeit a different level. I think we would say that whoever we're bringing in next season, even from a bench standpoint, guys, even from a rotation standpoint, you want to bring players off the bench to affect the game. That's what we need. We don't want Jack Harrison to come off the bench and just run around for a little bit. Look, I'm even looking at Brendan Harrison. I know there's been a redemption arc with Brendan in a sense. He wanted to leave the club and obviously went to Germany, came back, had to reintegrate himself, and there was a lot for him to prove. It's not really been a proving factor for me yet. I've kind of looked at Brendan. I don't think there's that much of a development. I mentioned that this morning in his game. I've said something similar this morning as well. I don't think there's been a development in Jack's game. I just really don't. I don't think there has. And, we can go all the way back and we can look at very similar traits when it comes to Calvin and when it comes to Patrick. I don't think there's been evolution of their games whatsoever, really, in a development which you see with players at the championship level in the Premier League. So I think there has been, with Jack in particular, maybe there was a bit of a crystallization, like with others, Ayling, Cooper, etc., under Marcelo Bielsa. I'm not sure it's ever hit those dizzy heights afterwards. Obviously, we've mentioned the goal that kept Leeds in the Premier League, unbelievable. But I think Rafinha had Leeds United on his back at that point. And yeah, it's full credit as well to Jack, of course, but we've got to really base it on last season. It's an unbelievable environment for him. It's a club of which he clearly enjoyed being at when it came to Jack, for what, 2 seasons, I think it was. Clearly enjoyed being there. And it just seems like a different set of circumstances. The stuff happened with his mum, where his mum was effectively saying, I don't want to go back there. It's just there's a bit of a bad feeling with Jack. And there's loads of pictures going around of him training right now. I mean, he could be training for anything, guys. It's just off the season work. It doesn't mean he's coming back to Leeds United. But the form has just gone off a cliff, absolute cliff. Everton fans didn't want him back, which speaks volumes as well. Being a sort of a lower to mid-table Premier League side, which is kind of where Leeds want to be. But with Jack's contract, well, like we've mentioned, it's a problem. It really is a problem right now with regards to how long he's got left and Leeds having to potentially reintegrate him into the side. He played regularly during our last Premier League stint. Leeds were relegated, loaned to Everton. It didn't revive his form whatsoever. He hasn't improved technically, in my opinion, whatsoever, or tactically in multiple seasons. I think you see the same traits from him. You've even seen when you watched him at points this season. It was funny. I was speaking to Mike, and he said to me actually, he went, "Does he ever just look at the sky?" And I went, "Oh my god, Mike." I went, "Oh my god." Just pulling the shorts, looking up the sky every time there's a mistake. It's head down, run with your head down, rarely looking up, not very spatially aware. And I think there's problems. I think his decision making has always been a bit of an issue with Jack, and I don't think that's great and whatsoever. So I think we need ruthlessness getting up to the Premier League. I think that's something we're all very, very aware of. We've maybe seen that with Manor Solomon going back. We've obviously seen that with Joe Rothwell, now going up to Rangers and Leeds not taking the plunge. I get it's a case by case circumstance. I understand that. But I'm also very aware that it feels like sentiment is not part of Leeds United's repertoire right now, but they don't really have a choice with Jack, and that's the big issue. You know, and the rumors are that he is being reintegrated into the side, or you listen to the podcast, and the lack of noise means that potentially he is going to be reintegrated, because you kind of remember that a little bit with Brendan as well. I don't know. It feels like it sends for me the wrong message. Players can perform force moves and still walk back in. Obviously, his contract runs till 2028. That's 3 more seasons of big financial commitment, and getting him off the books is going to be a problem. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I think loaning him out would be short-term relief, maybe MLS, but the permanent exit's obviously the best sort of solution now. But I think the club needs to take a bit of a strong stance here. I just think you need to get rid of Jack Harrison, get him out on loan, see if he can perform again. But I just wonder what Leeds are going to do here. Are they going to cave, or are they going to hold firm? Apply pressure, say surplus to requirements, and help facilitate a move. Once again, it's not vindictive, it's just smart business. But I think if we're serious about progress in this league, Leeds have to work their absolute damnedest to find a solution for Jack Harrison. I don't think as a squad option. And look, it's very easy to turn around and go, as a squad option, he's a Premier League player, he's got a load of experience, blah, blah, blah. But what is the most recent experience, and what, when given time in a very good environment, which was Everton for him, and a manager who seriously believed in him, and not the turbulent period where he's at Leeds United outside of Marcelo Bielsa? When you've had that consistency, what have you done? And he's not really rewarded Everton with his move there and the faith that they've brought into him in the games and the minutes that he's played. So they'll be looking on improving him. I think the likes of Tieno Barry coming in, and potentially Tim Weah coming in is evidence of that in terms of the forward line. That's a massive improvement on Jack. And a left back position, I heard the lads talk about on the podcast. When have we really explored that? It's not really been a thing. I wouldn't trust his 1v1 defending, to be honest with you. I think he's quite meek in a tackle. Yes, back in the day, he was a bit of a press merchant. I understand that. But how far does that get you in the Premier League? You need to be a Swiss Army knife, don't you? So drawing a line will be ideal for me, and building players who fit the future, fit the style of what we're looking at. Now, I guess one way you can look at it is Jack's got a nice left foot. Could put the ball into the box, I guess, but especially with the type and style what Leeds are going for now, in terms of like clearly strong, tall, athletic build, and you need someone who can deliver the ball into the box. But I think that's romanticized a little bit as well. I don't think Jack was great at delivery. I think a lot of it was whipped balls with his head down and not getting a great connection on it. So Yeah, the ideal scenario for me is moving this guy on, obviously, but the contract till 2028 is a big problem. It's a big problem. I don't know how 40 grand a week, it might not sound a lot, but you know, when you're paying him 2 million quid a year for barely no edge back when it comes to anything else, it can be a problem for Leeds, and there will be conversations surely being had. I just wonder whether or not, because Farke loves it, doesn't he? He loves a dynamic presser. He'll probably be looking at it and thinking, you know, when Jack Harrison used to come up against Daniel Farker's Norwich back in the day, it was Jack Harrison was a good performer, albeit you know, he didn't really perform in those games. But he'll maybe look at Jack and think, you know, there's a player there of which I can get a tune out of that he thought with Max when he tried to reintegrate Max back into the side. I don't think Max ever wanted to be at Leeds, to be honest with you. I just think that became abundantly clear with the amount of injuries he had. And obviously, he's done it with Brendan as well, hasn't he? But Brendan, I don't think, has gone on to that next level. I think it's just been a bit of a constant. And I think it will be a constant with Jack again. So Everton fans are happy to see him gone. Leeds fans are not happy to see him back. There's a lot of problems here, I think, with Jack. And this could be a big thing in the next couple of weeks. So we'll wait and see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Catch you tomorrow for the room mill. I'll see you in a bit, guys. Cheers.